Hi, welcome to the Gun Room. With me, I've got a full house. It's the Podcateers. We've got Mitch. How you doing, Mitch?
Not too bad. Good to be back.
Absolutely. We've got Jay. How you doing, Jay?
All good, thank you. All good.
And we got Paul, our token toffee. It's all going to be good coming up, isn't it? Eh?
It's going to be really interesting. I just wish I was in Naples tonight. That sounds like a really good game of football for me to watch.
Right, we'll have a brief word on the Villa game. There's lots to get through. We've got the transfer window, we've got the Villa game, the Man United game, and we've got the emails and social media as well. So, Aaron Lerner of Sub Nation said, I was a bit perplexed why their results have been so poor over the last 15 matches. He's talking about Aston Villa, obviously. Just 3 wins from 15. They had good players, but after watching them play today, everything is cleared up. They don't play football. Steven Gerrard sends them out to try and kick opponents up into the air. Before I read that, I thought myself that it was getting a bit tasty. Gab McGinn and Ramsey, it was a lot of argy-bargy. How did you see it, Mitch, on the physical side before we get to the match?
I mean, I kind of agree with a lot of what Aaron said in that. I think that Aston Villa has a lot of talented players that just are clearly not being utilized correctly. I had higher hopes for Steven Gerrard after winning the league and winning the SPL with Rangers when he came in to that Aston Villa job, especially with like the amount of talent that they had and that they do have on paper. But yeah, they've been going into these matches and just trying to be like a physical presence, and it's not doing enough in order to like have them to be able to get out results. And yeah, it got kind of awful in our game where like I feel like there's been multiple games now where we've seen like a lot of physicality and a lot of tackles against Arsenal players that just like hasn't been punished, where it's just like over and over and over again. And it's like, well, then I'm going back to Xhaka getting
You're not talking about Tyrone Mings, are you?
Oh, I'm definitely talking about Tyrone Mings, who is just awful.
Scrum half, isn't it?
Like he just in like the last 2 Arsenal games, an Arsenal player has been picked up and thrown to the ground, and I don't know how that's allowed. I mean, granted, Scott McTominay got a yellow card for it, but Tyrone Mings was not punished whatsoever. So it's very weird that this keeps happening. And yeah, I think Aston Villa is generally trying to do stuff like that, and they have the players to play a better brand of football, and yet they don't.
Yeah, we'll get to McTominay. He's on my dartboard at the moment. I'm not very impressed with him. He's a bit of a scoundrel, isn't he? But we'll get to that. Jay, no Zinchenko, Partey or El Neni. Injuries continue to mount up. How did you feel about the team, the lineup? Let's just go through it. Aaron Ramsdale, Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel Kieran Tierney, Sambi Lokonga, Granit Xhaka, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus. We do love the old Gabriels. What was your thoughts, Jay, on that lineup?
Yeah, it's still a strong team. Still more than good enough to win. I just wanted to add to what Mitch said about Tyrone Mings. He's always been one of those players that I've never understood how he became professional, how he made it to be a professional footballer. You know, like he's physically, you know, he's an imposing guy, but, you know, he's got no technical ability, and he's a bit of a bully, and obviously Mitch touched on it. You know, the sort of the manhandling, you know, the challenge on Saka, you know, to sort of like almost lift him up and push him out of the way. It's just ridiculous. But I was happy with the team, more than capable of beating Villa. Villa are a funny team because they've still got some good players, you know, like quite like McGinn, always quite liked him, and Bailey sometimes can, you know, turn up and put in a decent performance.
Good player.
Watkins, you know, he's got a goal in him, so it was always going to be a tough game. But I thought I was happy, you know, and we pretty much dominated the game. First half, especially, we had completely dominated, didn't we? And it seems like an age ago, but yeah,
it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I was happy.
Paul, did you see the match as our token beloved adopted toffee? Did you watch it for us?
Yeah, I saw most of the game. Yeah, I mean, it was a bizarre goal Arsenal conceded as well from the corner kick. But going back to what Jay and Mitch both said there about Tyrone Mings, yeah, I totally agree. I really don't know how how Mings has made a career in professional football. To me, he's slow. He doesn't anticipate danger. He gives away silly free kicks. He's way too physical for that role. And I think even Aston Villa fans don't rate Mings either, which quite surprised me at the times. I think one of the things Gerrard got right was A, stripping of the captaincy, and B, dropping at the start of the season. And I think it's worth against Gerrard the fact the centre half they brought in for Sevilla, whose name I've forgotten, is out for the rest of the season now. So he's had to go back to bring Mings in, and he looks woefully one-paced as well. And how he's been sort of almost a regular for the England squad in recent years, I have absolutely no idea. And if he's playing in our
oh, is it because he's a left-footed player and we haven't got many options on that?
Yeah, possibly, but there are better left-foot options, and you can compensate for the lack of a left-footed defence as well, but by a few tactical adjustments. So, I just don't rate him at all. So, just echoing what Mitch and Jay have said there as well. But also, I thought the Villa game was quite a good test for Arsenal, because it would have been easy for Hez to go down conceding a silly goal like that, and the response was almost immediate. So, I think that was to the credit of the team as well. And I think, as Mitch points out there, Villa are a very physical team, and I think under Gerrard, I don't think Gerrard's still quite worked out what style of football he wants to play for Villa and what formation he wants to play. If you speak to Villa fans, they're bemused by the fact that Buendia was not starting week in, week out, as opposed to Coutinho, who they don't really understand why he's been brought into the team, because his best days are certainly behind him. So it's going to be quite a challenging time for Villa, I think, this season. I mean, they bought Luca Digne from Everton, and Luca Digne is great going forward, but he can't defend. And that's an obvious weakness in the Villa team as well. So obviously, I think Gerrard sees the Villa role as his kind of interview for the Liverpool job, which may become vacant sooner than anticipates after the event.
He might not want that at the minute, might he?
He might not want that at all. So, but yeah, overall, a good performance by Arsenal, a good win, and it kept the winning sequence back on track, which is all you want.
Mitch, the guys that came in, Kieran Tierney, he had a double bite, the cherry on goal. He looks a little bit rusty, doesn't he, because of the injury? But what did you make of Lokonga?
I mean, particularly in the Aston Villa game, I thought he was tremendous. Like, he played so well. I'm a huge fan of Sambi. Like, I love the player. I don't know if 6 role is necessarily tailor-made to him right now in his career, but I think he's shown that he can play there as of right now, especially when we're shorthanded in that role. And I think he played really well, progressed the ball really well, had some beautiful passes out to the left wing that like went right to feet to Martinelli. No complaints about Sambi's performance against Aston Villa. I think we saw a little bit of the holes in the Man United game of like where he is as a number 6 in his career. But I still think that he's a really, really solid player that I don't think Arsenal fans give enough credit to.
93% pass accuracy, 2 fouls won, 100% ground duels won. So yeah, he was one to keep your eye on. And I agree, he's going to be an epic player, I think, just given a bit of time, a little bit of experience. Well, I tell you what, Martinez had a bit of a blinding game, didn't he, Jay? He was like a cat. He was all over the gaff.
Yeah, he was, but it was also amusing to see him spill that first one for Jesus' goal, wasn't it? You know, he's an interesting character in Martinez, to say the least. He's always got a thing to say about us, hasn't he? It was funny seeing him drop that one at Jesus' legs, and Jesus gratefully just popped it in, didn't he?
Yeah, he's. I was talking to Paul last week and said that what we really need is 2 Jesuses, really, because he creates, but there's no one to quite finish. He's not on the same. Someone's not on the same wavelength as him. If we could have someone who was sort of wired up the same way, it'd be perfect. Paul,
that's Eddie Nketiah.
Yeah, exactly. How do you fit them all in though? That's
you could play Jesus as a winger and have Nketiah play striker, and like we've seen that when we were chasing the goal against Fulham, we played with the front 6 and had both of them up there with Martinelli and with Saka, with Odegaard and with Xhaka behind them. And so I think that it can like feasibly work as like a striker pairing for chasing a game, or moving Jesus out to the wing, or moving Nketiah out to the wing. Like, we have a lot of versatile attackers. We have, like, every single player that can play in our front line can play in a different position. So, like, we can find a puzzle piece that, like, works together. But I think what the front line that we're doing, that we've been starting with most games of Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka is, like, what we've got to keep rolling with, because those guys are playing really well at the moment.
Yeah, Paul, I was going to ask you about Xhaka. He's like a different person, isn't he? It's like he's been, I don't know, he's had some sort of brain popped in that makes his feet work in a different way. What do you make of him? Oh, Paul, we've lost you. You've gone all a bit silent.
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault. I'm losing myself. Yeah, obviously, you would know better than me how this season was compares to previous seasons. I mean, as an observer from the outside, he's always been a bit of a loose cannon, a bit of a hothead. You couldn't quite rely on him from game to game. But I think this season he's really settled down. I think he's been a key factor between Arsenal's in helping with Arsenal's winning sequence this season. I think he's created space to open up the opposition in attacks. He's been comfortable in possession. He's covered well also. He's been, I know, Odegaard, Jesus, etc., rightly get the praise for their contribution this season, but I think just behind that, Xhaka has definitely been one of Arsenal's form players this season, and maybe there's a more maturity about him now. Maybe once again, with the World Cup coming up, he wants to go to Qatar with with the plaudits, be behind him for his displays for Arsenal. So yeah, I've been very impressed with Xhaka, as I'm sure you guys have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitch, we come to that equaliser, 74th minute. Louise curls in a corner. Ramsdale was tied up a little bit by Watkins. That reminded me of Leno in the Brentford game. Was it the Brentford game where he was tied up and physical? Yeah. I didn't expect that.
But I think that this was a little bit different because he was just like straight up pinning him. Like, he had his arms like wrapped around him. I don't know what a foul and what isn't a foul in the Premier League anymore. I'm just kind of tired because I feel like we saw multiple things this weekend of fouls being called because there was a goalkeeper being obstructed. So, like, I have no clue what's a foul. Like, it's so inconsistent game to game. And they said that we would get explanations when VAR checks would be in place. They haven't done that. They said that there would be more clarity. There hasn't been. It's been the same product from referees, which sucks because the product of the Premier League is better than it's ever been right now, because so many teams are playing so well, and it's getting ruined by just like questionable referee decisions. Like, a Brighton player scored the goal of his life the other day, and it was called back by like a minuscule offside that didn't even like really affect the play. And Leicester scored a goal that was nearly identical to Arsenal's opener against Manchester United that was called back for an Odegaard foul. Yuri Tielemans made a very, very similar foul on that play, and it was not called back. Like, there's no consistency in any part of refereeing right now. Like, there needs to be like very clear lines of like what is allowed, what isn't, and like make sure that these calls are being called accordingly. Like, it's very weird on how inconsistent it is, because the consistency thing seems like the easiest thing to have. That seems like the easiest thing. Like, if you don't agree with how an offside is ruled or how a foul is ruled, but like if you have a baseline of like all the referees are on the same page, like, oh, this is a foul. If you push a guy over and get the ball, that's a foul. Great, call that every time. Just call it every time. Or if a goalkeeper is obstructed when the ball's coming in, that's a foul. Okay, great. Call it every time. Just do that. Just call it every time. Have some consistency with what you're trying to do, and the product will be better. Have consistency, have transparency, but we just get none of that. And it's really, really frustrating when you're trying to enjoy a really great product, which is what the Premier League is. Like, the games that we've been watching this season have been great, but there's been too many times where the referees take center stage and are the main conversation, and they just shouldn't be. That should never be the role of a referee. And I get that referees make mistakes. I understand, but that's why we have VAR, that we have that double check to make sure that, like, oh no, you got that call wrong, but it's all right, we'll just reverse it. But there's no consistency in it, which is really frustrating.
Jay, do you think that? Sorry, Paul. Jay,
Yeah,
do you think that VAR is kind of persuading the referee that he's made a mistake? In his mind, he's getting called over to the screen to have a look. So he goes over and second guesses himself. These things are like a gnat's dick, aren't they? These decisions. It's absolutely ridiculous. Do you think there's some of that?
Well, yeah, there is, absolutely. I mean, this weekend, like Mitch touched on some of them, we saw some absolute shockers, you know, some that just if they're not, you see, if these decisions aren't explained, then they're just giving, you know, the powers that be the power to basically corrupt the game. I know it sounds a bit extreme, but if these people aren't being made to explain their decisions, or we're not hearing any form of conversation between the video assistant referee and the on-field referee, you know, like there was the Joe Willock incident at Newcastle where he was pushed into the goalkeeper. But you know, how is the VAR not seen that one? You know, that, you know, it's almost as if he looked at the screen but not looked at the full screen, if that makes sense. He's only seen a little bit of what he wanted to see. I mean, it's not, first and foremost, I don't think you'll find anybody that will say that it's improving the game. Not at the moment, right? Any supporter of any sort of Premier League side, I can't see there being anybody who's saying it's enhancing the game at all. And I've read and heard this week that they're getting, there's a statistic flying around where they're getting, you know, there's more decisions being made, you know, changed from bad to good, right? But with the amount of technology they have, they should get every decision right. Like it shouldn't be, oh well, it's making, you know, X amount of, you know, things better. And it should be you know, especially if these referees are going over to the screen and taking 4 or 5 minutes to make a decision, they should get it right, you know. And you know, Mitch mentioned that the Leicester goal, saying it was similar to, you know, the challenge Tielemans made was similar to the challenge Ødegaard made. It was far worse what Tielemans made. He absolutely body checked the Brighton player, and for me, the Ødegaard challenge on Christian Eriksen was incredibly soft. That's never a foul. It would never be a foul to me. And it's just you know, VAR. They offered me, you know, to take it out from this weekend, never to see it again, or just include it for offsides, and obviously goal line technology. You know, I'd go for that. I think the referees just, you know, your question was, are they influenced? Yeah, absolutely they are, but it should be something that the on-field referee calls for, not, they shouldn't be called back and told you've made a, you know, unless it is a huge, massive error. And like, it's astonishing that they're making such a Horlicks of it. And it's bizarre because these guys are paid a lot of money, aren't they? These referees. It's not like they're paid the 20 quid that the refs get on my vet game. You know, it's these guys that get paid professional, you know, wage. So it's atrocious, and it's this weekend. But you live in hope that this weekend was rock bottom, and they can't. I'm not saying it is, but
I doubt that very much, Jay.
I know, but you live in hope that they've learned, or they're slowly getting to the point where they start to make an active change and look at the way things are done. But I mean, I hate VAR, and everybody said it. You know, it takes away the joy of a goal. You know, it takes away that. You know, I mean, I suppose, you know, Tom and Mitch, you were the same as me. When that Martinelli goal went in against United, I went absolutely crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely lost it
because it was such a finish. It was such
a fantastic. Finish. It was so good.
It was such a finish that it wasn't just like a scramble in the box or rolled into the bottom corner. He absolutely thundered it into that corner. Great finish. And I went crazy. And then to take that away for something so minor, yeah, you know, it's killing the game. It's killing. Well, no, it's not killing the game. It's killing a key part of the game where you're having to check. You know, you're having to check 2 or 3 things, the linesman, the referee, whatever, before you can actually commit to cheering, which is just absolutely rubbish. So if they offered me the chance to to remove it from the game this weekend, I would take that. 100%.
Paul, I'm going to come to you in a second, but yeah, interesting you mentioned that one, Jay, because I felt there wasn't enough in that challenge. He was kind of side on, and he looked like he was going to ground anyway. He looked like he'd given up on the ball, and as soon as his backside hit the floor, he was like, "Oh, come on," you know. And from that point on, we were away, and that was a goal. I mean, the 3 cups, I nearly took the windows out screaming. And then, as you say, as a fan, I mean, I wasn't there, I wasn't paying. Well, I was grabbing beers instead. But as a paying fan, if you're there and that time is elapsing, the joy, the fluency, you've been robbed of it. Paul, what's your version of events on that one?
Totally agree with the points made both by Mitch and Jay there. I mean, if I kind of summarise, what's been said and what I think, my opinion would be, as Jay points out, that the time factor, when you're a fan in the stadium, it's so frustrating that you're waiting 3-4 minutes to see whether the goal is being given or not. Like you, Jamie, obviously, you were going wild celebrating Martinelli's goal on Sunday. We were going bananas where we were waiting for Conor Cody scored a goal in the derby against Liverpool. And for 2 minutes, you jump up and down with joy. And then that nagging dark cloud comes down slowly and slowly and slowly. You see VAR check. And the longer the VAR check goes on, the less chance of that decision going in your favour. Yeah. And as a paying fan, it's really, really frustrating because you almost at the state now where you never quite know when to celebrate a goal. No. Even the days pre-VAR, if the referee made a mistake, was offside, the decision made about 10-15 seconds, so you know exactly where you stand. So I find that hugely frustrating as well. I think, going back to the length of time, there should be a cut-off point, shouldn't there? I mean, I think Michael Oliver, the penalty Notts Forest got at the weekend took 5 minutes for the decision by the time you got over to see the screen, etc. Now, if you're at home watching TV, that's great because you can get a cup of coffee, you can come back, have a toilet break, and then come back and nothing's happened for 5 minutes. And so you can catch up with the action. When you're on the ground, that's so frustrating because you haven't got a clue what's going on. You haven't got a clue what the debate is about. So I just find that incredibly disrespectful to the paying customer, because without fans, football dies. And I know a few people now who when a goal is scored, you look behind and they're sat in the chair like that because they don't know whether to celebrate or not, which is takes away the whole joy of football. Football's entertainment, and entertainment isn't looking at the big screen for 5 minutes saying VAR check and progress. In no one's mind is that entertainment. Entertainment is goals being scored. It's the joy of beating your rivals in a derby match, and that's just been slowly taken away from football as a spectacle. And I think, in my opinion, part of the reason why the Premier League's intervened this weekend about the appalling decisions that were made in so many different games is the concern by the negative publicity, because the Premier League here to generate money. I think here to make us happy as fans. They just want to keep generating more and more money in England, overseas, anywhere they can get the money in. And I think what they don't want is negative publicity. So this is why they come with this state now. There's going to be a review. No matter how often have you heard the government say there's going to be a review about this and nothing happens, I have no confidence that the review is going to have any positive impact whatsoever. I meant to ask you as well, Mitch. I mean, Howard Webb apparently is coming over, from his experience in the MLS, where he's made the video responses much more open to the public. Because from your perspective, I'd love to know, would you agree with that? And just one final thing I'll say before I come back to that is that I think from the TV's point of view, VAR is great drama. They love that. From the fans' point of view, it really is so annoying. And I also think as well, why is VAR in the stadium? Why are they stuck in a cab in Stockley Park? It's not that the Premier League shows some money, is it? Surely they can afford to set up a box in each stadium, because if I'm watching the game in a cabin 200 miles from the match, I've got no idea the intensity, the feeling, what's gone on before. And it just seems to me that these people in Stockley Park are sitting around there trying to find the fault, trying to find something wrong. Mitch, you mentioned that goal for Brighton. I mean, what a fantastic goal that is. That's why I pay my money towards football, for to see skill like that. And to have that chalked off for a ridiculous decision at the offside at the start of the move shouldn't be allowed. And the Martinelli goal, the same. We'll watch that here. Fantastic goal. As a neutral, applaud every minute from the move, the build-up. And to say that challenge on Eriksen was the reason why that goal was disallowed, to me, it's not the game I grew up with anyway.
No.
Well, podcast family, we will get back to the Aston Villa game, I promise you. But obviously, this is a big chestnut, isn't it? We're going through. Just to come back to you before you come in, Mitch. I agree with you, Paul. Football now is about Sky Television, and it's a television-based sport. So it's being treated as though Sky are the gods, and we are just the people that turn up occasionally. Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before, but like American sports have had, I mean, every single sport complains about referees. Like, this is not exclusive to the Premier League. But there's a lot the Premier League can do to increase transparency and increase like general reception around referee decisions. And like I've talked about this before, but the biggest thing is transparency. Having to emulate like what the XFL did, where they had referees during instant replays. You heard their conversations, you heard them talking, which is what the Premier League said they were going to do at the beginning of the season. And then I don't know where that is. I don't is it like on YouTube or something? I thought it was gonna be on the broadcast. Like, where are they releasing this? What is the, like, where is it? I think the biggest thing is like the whole point of VAR is to find and correct clear and obvious errors. If it's clear and obvious, it's not going to take 4 or 5 minutes. It's not going to take 4 or 5 minutes. If it's clear and obvious, you're not going to have to zoom in to the like grainiest pixels you've ever seen, like Jesus' offside goal a couple of weeks ago. If it's clear and obvious, you're going to look at it for 30 seconds, be like, oh, yeah, we messed up there. All right, let's reverse that choice. Like that is the definition of a clear and obvious choice or decision where you relook at it and you're like, oh, yeah, if we draw that line a little bit, yeah, I can see he's offsides. All right, cool, he's offsides. Oh, he looks like he was kind of pinned there. All right, great. He's on that's a foul. The whole point of a clear and obvious mistake is that you want to just do it quickly. But if you're going to take 4 or 5 minutes, and especially when you're in the ground, like when you're in the stands and there's a long VAR check, like there's that restlessness that you're kind of feeling, and you're just like, we've seen this a couple times in the replay when they've showed it in the stadium. We're like, I don't really see anything wrong with it. Why is this taking so long? If it's taking this long, then he's probably fine, right? Because if he's taking that long, then it's not a clear and obvious error. You're trying to reverse it. You're trying to change something if you're going to take that long. And that's not the point of VAR. The point of VAR is to just make sure everything's staying with it. Like if you're on first glance, like, okay, that goal was a fantastic goal, but he was a little bit offsides. This other guy who wasn't really involved. Yeah, no, you can't have that goal. Like that's not a clear and obvious error. That's not creating the goal.
I totally agree with you, Mitch, because if you've got to keep looking from different angles and all the rest of it, then you're going to find something eventually. You know,
it's confirmation bias. Like if you want to find something wrong, you'll find something wrong. Like if you look at that Martinelli goal just in itself, you're like, oh, it's a good goal. But if you want to find something to overturn, you'll be like, that Odegaard tackle was a little tough. And you'll try to find something. And if you're trying to find something, then you're ruining the product. That's not what you want. That's not the purpose of VAR.
Jay, by the way, people, we're going back to the Villa game. You'll be glad to know. Okay, we're going to come back to all this stuff as well because it'll be a recurring theme. But let's go 77th minute. Martinelli strikes back. Brilliant reply, wasn't it, Jay? Can you walk us? Can you cast your mind back that far and remember what it was all about?
Yeah, it was Saka, wasn't it? Cross to the back post. Martinelli took it on the half volley, and again, Martinez made a bit of a mess, didn't he, of the shot, and he sort of palmed it into the back of the net. And we replied straight away, didn't we? It's been a sort of a recurring theme this season, but we've hit back straight away, and it was a great goal, great scenes. Crowd sounded brilliant on the TV, so yeah, more than deserved it. You know, Villa certainly did not deserve that equaliser, not in the slightest. Yeah, delighted.
I've got on my scribbled notes. It was Tomiyasu to Saka. So let's talk about the Tomiyasu cameo. He was impressive, wasn't he? That boy, we love him. I'm glad he's back. He's got to be knocking on the door to get back in that back line. Mitch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked what I saw from Tomiyasu, but at the same time, I've also really liked what I've seen from Ben White. So if I think Tomiyasu will probably start tomorrow in the Europa League to get some more minutes. If we don't have to rush him back to a full 90 minutes, like that's great. I'm glad that we have solid options at right back with Ben White there. And he'll get a full 90 tomorrow, I assume. And so we'll get a good look at him, and we'll get a good kind of idea of where he's at. But I think Ben White's done a really good job there, to where there's no need to rush in any way to get anyone in or out of the side. I don't think. Like some people saw Fabio Vieira's 15 minutes. They're like, holy shit, we need to bench Odegaard. He should never play for us again. Fabio Vieira is the next coming of Christ. And it's like, holy shit, people. Like, we can have a deep squad. Like, Arsenal fans are allergic to good depth, just allergic to it. Like, I was talking on a different pod last week where they were talking about the Ramsdale and Wilshere like conversations like years ago, and we got the same thing with Smith Rowe and Martinelli, or Ben White and Saliba. Like there's so many just like discussions that just don't need to be had, frankly, within our fan base of like, oh, this player is playing well, but we have this other guy who's also good. And it's like, yeah, we can have two players at a position. That is allowed. They allow that in the rule book. We've been talking for years about like, hey, Manchester City's B team could probably challenge for the title. And yeah, don't we want that? Isn't that the goal? Don't we want a good team? I would like a good team personally, because if you just have a good 11, you're not winning the league. There's too many games for that. It's frustrating to see like so many conversations about that, because I just don't think it needs to be had. Like we can have Tomiyasu and we can also have Ben White. They're both really good players. And then the same thing with Saliba and Ben White, both really good players. Like quality is a great thing to have. And this Arsenal squad has a fair amount of it. So we don't really need to like be like fighting for certain players, because like they'll play. We have a lot more matches this season. We have a lot deeper squad.
A lot more podcasts.
Exactly. Like if Emile Smith Rowe is going to get into the team, he's going to play well enough in training. He's going to take advantage of his sub appearances. Like, yeah, he's 21, 22. Like, yeah, it's good that he doesn't have like a guaranteed spot in the starting 11. If he takes those strides to make that spot his own, then yeah, that he should absolutely start. But it's also not a conversation we need to be having like every week of like, hey, Ben White misplaced one pass. I think it's time we bench him forever. And it's like, that's not how this works, really. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating, but I think that they both played well.
We were discussing last week about Arsenal's lack of clinical finishing. We saw that to a degree in the Villa game, although we won. So what's the problem? We took that into the Man United game, which we're coming into as well. Still a bit of an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of agreed, Tom, didn't we? That the important thing is to be creating the chances, because eventually, even though they might not be getting converted at the moment, they will be converted eventually. I think in the Fulham game as well, Arsenal created a number of chances that they certainly could have added to the final scoreline there. So yeah, it is. I suppose you might class it as a concern, but I think. I mean, Mitch, you mentioned before about Nketiah, being able to maybe play in the centre and Jesus on the wide. I think there may come a stage when Arteta will look what its striking options are, maybe vary from game to game, because as you said there, Mitch, you don't pick the same 11 for every game in the Premier League. You change it, make adjustments depending on who the opposition are as well. So that might be something to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned, Tom, about the idea of having two Jesuses in the team. I mean, that would be superb, wouldn't it? Because I think I've said on this pod numerous times, to me, at the moment, Gabriel Jesus is up there with one of the signings of the season. The impact he's had on the Arsenal team, the whole boost he's given the squad, the fans, the club, it's just been absolutely immense. And I think as the season progresses, his goal tally will improve, and I think he will continue to create chances for other players as well. I think not scoring goals becomes a problem when you're conceding goals. you can win the title by scraping a few 4 to 5 1-0 victories to get you over the line. You don't need to win 2, 3, 4-0 every week. But once you start conceding goals, that's when you've got to make sure you've got the response in your attack, to come back in games like that, which also done so far. Conceding against Villa, conceding against Leicester as well. So, but yeah, I think I mean. You know more than me whether Arsenal are in the market for another striker prior to the deadline elapsing. I don't know, but Mitch, and Jay, you both mentioned about strength and depth, being able to bring people into the team. Whether the lack of maybe an additional striker in that squad may be costly towards the end of the year. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. Before we get into that, Erling Haaland. I mean, what a buy he is for City. 50 million, wasn't it? 50 million with a few add-ons. What's he got? 13, 14 goals? What a beast. I should be talking about him, but he's a beast.
And all on the 6-yard box as well, more or less. I mean, it's his positioning, his anticipation has just been absolutely superb, yeah.
Yeah, he's a huge character. He's a big old lump, isn't he? And have that bearing down on you. You've got to have some big balls to deal with that. We've got a couple of comments before we go to the United game. If Xhaka had made that challenge, talking about Tyrone Mings, he would have got a straight red. That's from Jeff Dawes. The ref turned a blind eye to so many of Villa's bad fouls last night. That was from Carol Johns. Right, on to the Manchester United game. I don't really want to go there, but you have to. I'm still gutted by that loss. It reminds me of last season when we lost to them. We had so much on the go. We had so much potential. It's such a good performance. Jay, what did you make of that performance? Because I left the pub. I was gutted we lost, but strangely, I was still upbeat in a way.
It was a performance to be proud of. Like, we absolutely battered them, and I was so gutted at the end that we came away with nothing. But also, like, you could tell. I didn't see too much of the post-match because honestly, I could not stomach Roy Keane and Gary Neville gloating the way that they normally do. But you could tell in the commentary from Neville just how impressed he was with how we played. And we created so many chances. Yeah, United started the first 10 minutes maximum. I'll give them the first 10 minutes, but for the rest of the half, we absolutely battered them. We absolutely dominated, dictated the play. Zinchenko, obviously he was chosen ahead of Tierney, and you could see, he was picking up those great positions, pushing into midfield, and we were spraying the ball around, and you'd think we were at home, and United were just chasing shadows. And the only problem was, when the chances occurred, Saliba had the chance in the first half where, if that falls to anyone else other than your centre back, there's a chance that's going in. That was a real chance, and you couldn't help as well worry about the referee performance when the first 5 minutes, Lisandro, the United centre back, manhandles Jesus, and clear yellow card.
There was a lot of that going on, wasn't there? I mean, Saka and Jesus, they were up on a regular basis. Yeah,
but Saka was giving Varane the runaround money. He was physically, he's so good, bringing the ball down, making a nuisance of himself. Overall, I've got mates who are Man United fans, and they couldn't deny it was a smash and grab. Like they nicked the win. Okay, I'm sure we'll get onto the substitutions from Arteta and the goals we conceded, but on another day we absolutely batter United at Old Trafford, and a performance to be proud of, a performance that makes, I think, the rest of the league stand up. Even though we lost, it was a great example of how far the team's come, and with in many aspects we're the real deal. We're not perfect. We still got the elements of the team that needs improving. Arteta still needs to improve, no doubt, and I'm sure he'll be the first one to admit he's not perfect in any way, but great performance. It kind of made me want the Everton game to come in 2 or 3 days, because ultimately, obviously, like Paul's probably not going to want to hear it, but I think Everton will get absolutely battered. I think there's the frustrations.
Put your headphones up.
Sorry, Paul, but
I've heard it all before, Jay. Don't worry.
Yeah. It's just, I just think the frustration and the slight disappointment of not coming away from Old Trafford after such an effort is gonna, it's gonna explode against Everton on Sunday. And great performance to be proud of. I was the same as you, Tom. Frustrated, gutted, but also no United fan can say they deserve that. It was one of those situations where we all know that you don't always get what you deserve in football, and that was definitely an example of that.
Well, there was a couple of United fans in the 3 Cups. Thanks, John, for putting up with me. And they were sort of tucked over in the corner. And when the goal was disallowed, and then they started getting their goals, I had the black with the bronze on, with Odegaard on the back, and they just went, "Are you happy wearing that shirt?" And I was very restrained. I said, "Yeah, I am. Thanks. Cheers." I just left the pub. But right, let's get back to our position, which was we spoke about the Odegaard Ericsson tackle. Well, it wasn't a tackle, was it? It was just like a little breeze between them. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, he didn't really go for that. But it's funny how that decision split the so-called experts and pundits on Sky TV. We had to draw level, so we drew level with. I've messed up here, haven't I? Anthony, let's talk about Anthony. That's where I'm going. I've gone off page, and that's thrown me a bit. So against the run of the play, Anthony on his debut. What did you make of him, Mitch? Anthony?
I think he was like exactly what I expected. I think he's clearly a good player. Like that, there's no doubt there. But like. My biggest thing with them buying him is that they very much overpaid, and I think that's generally my view on United's whole window is that they bought well but didn't spend well, and because they like bought good players but they overpaid for most of them, and like he's clearly a talented player. He's like a profile that they needed of a right winger, a left-footed right winger. I think that his little tricks are needless a lot of times. I think there's the clip that was going around on Twitter that the Manchester United's official account posted of him going up to Zinchenko, just waggling his leg a couple times and then passing it backwards, and it's like that's not necessary at all. But it was a really good play by him to score that goal.
Put through by Rashford as well.
Yeah, Gabriel stepped out, and then we had a hard time covering that left flank because Zinchenko's playing a lot higher, so we can't really have Gabriel stepping out that high, and especially not missing when he does. Like if he steps out that high, he needs to get the ball. 100% of the time, he needs to get the ball if he steps out that high, unless he's like very, very confident about who's behind him, because that was not a good choice, and it caused Anthony to have a lot of space to be able to put that finish in. Solid goal. Like there wasn't anything to like complain about on the goal. Like
I think Ramsdale made it.
It was a good goal. Other than like it was against the run of play and it was a Gabriel mistake. But like,
but you think Ramsdale made it a bit easy?
Yes, he tried going near post. I think that Ramsdale getting beat near post might be getting a little too much of in his head, where he dove near post so he didn't get beat there. I don't know why he made that decision. It was not a good choice. But I think we still gotta remember that Ramsdale's so young for a goalkeeper. Like he'll get there eventually. And I
Plus
think
that
he's
atmosphere
gonna
of Old Trafford must be really intimidating as well, isn't it? Eh? You must be absolutely bricking it when there's a chance for them to go in the lead. I got a bit carried away because I just wanted to talk about the Arsenal reply. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about Manchester United. That's not what we're here for. So let's get to that. Arsenal drew level. It was Saka. Talk us through that, Jay.
Yeah, some good work again. I mean, Jesus was picking up some great positions all through the game, wasn't he? You know, he was, like we said earlier, he was causing the United defense a lot of issues, and he's got such good feet. Very rarely gives the ball away, and the ball it was like sort of pumped into the middle, like pumped into the center, and Saka sort of rolled it in, and at that point you kind of thought, you know, great time to score, we're on top, and I thought we'd go on, you know, the absolute minimum what we deserved. You know, we'd missed, you know, before that, you know, Ødegaard, what a chance, you know, when it gets put to him, what was it, 5-6 yards out, and he opens his body up and he sort of messes up the shot, and then you've got Saka's chance as well that he puts wide, and you know, you think, okay, we've missed those chances, but we're back on level terms now, and more than we deserved. I thought he had a good game. I thought he caused, it was a good battle with, is it Malacia left back for United? I thought that was a good battle between those two. And Saka looked, there was a few occasions where his dribbling looked good and he was direct, and it looked like the Saka that we saw quite a lot last season. So I thought he played pretty well. And I thought at that point, we're in a great position. United weren't really offering too much, were they? We weren't getting hit on the break. We were controlling the ball, spraying it around, getting into some great positions. And then we got hit again, like, you know, sucker punched with the counter.
All these 3 goals really disappointed me because they were all, like, as you said, a sucker punch. They came out, we pressed too high, they put the ball through. Great sort of intelligence to do that, and great pace as well. And you have to give it to United. Those goals were taken really well, but we fell for it. It was our Achilles heel in this game. 3 substitutes, Paul, were used. We'll have to come to that because there's been a lot of criticism about these substitutions. Did it upset the balance?
Well, I think the end result kind of indicated it did, Tom. And so you bring substitutes on to make an impact in your favour and to get yourself back into the game, and it didn't quite work out like that. I think Arsenal kind of lost their rhythm and their dominance after substitutions as well. Just go back to what Mitch said before about Anthony kissing the badge after he scored his goal. He's been at the club for 30 minutes, and I just found that incredibly. What are you doing, mate? You know, you're not just lifelong Man United fan, been at the club for 10 years. It's 30 minutes in the day. We don't be kissing the badge. You know, come on. Jay, you made a very good point there about how Gabriel Jesus was targeted. I think about 4 or 5 times in the opening minutes he was side down by different people. That first tackle from is Lisandro should have been
Lisandro Martinez.
Yeah, Lisandro Martinez. Yeah, that's the one. That should have been a yellow card. Well, Scott McTominay got away with absolute sort of intimidation without the referees intervening at any stage whatsoever. I think United's tactics were target Jesus from the start and stop him playing. And to some extent, you know, it had an impact, you know, certainly for the first 10-15 minutes or so. Tom, in terms of the goals United scores, and it was just a classic sucker punch. It was almost like the way they played against Liverpool when they beat Liverpool 2-1 on the break. Rashford, just on the last man in the back 4, took advantage of it. I was kind of wondering whether if Thomas Partey had been playing and had been filling that space in the middle of the park, would those 2 balls have got through so easily? Because really at this level, you shouldn't be getting cut open by 2 balls straight down the middle of the park like that. But yeah, I mean, I can understand you guys' frustration because Arsenal were clearly the better side, you know, for the first, you know, for 3 quarters of that game. The Martinelli goal being disallowed changed the game for me because if Arsenal go 1-up at the time when they're totally dominating the game, I think it's really hard for Man United to get back into the match. And I'm sure it must affect the players, must it? You know, it's been a wonderful bit of skill. You scored a great goal and then it's chalked off for an innocuous offence 50 yards back before the move started. It just seems to me it's not justified at all. I mean, I think it was Arsenal were lucky to play a resurgent Man United because this wasn't a Man United that got challenged at Brentford 3-4 weeks ago. The team has improved. They've got better players than the team now. The team spirit's far better. And I think, you take the positives out of the game. For 3/4 of the match, the better team should have won. If you scored, taking the chances, you should have won. If Odegaard is 100% fit, you win the game as well. But you lose matches. That's football. It might take you 2 weeks to come back from it. But yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that basically about McTominay. I've got an email here. Kim Morton Ognadale. McTominay is a cheat and a caveman. The fouls he gets away with every game without a card is ridiculous. 2 yellow card offences and arguably 1 red offence. When will he break his first leg? And I think that's probably fair. I didn't like a lot of the upheaval that McTominay and is it Varane? Yeah, a lot of that going on, sort of pushing, elbowing, chucking up in the air. Right. So Rashford got his 2 goals. Good for him. See you later. Let's get on to the match stats. We're going to do Man United first and then Arsenal. 10 shots for Man United, 16 for Arsenal. 6 shots on target for Man United, 3 for Arsenal. 39% possession, 61% possession for Arsenal. 310 passes for Man United and 465 for Arsenal. Pass accuracy of 78% for them and 83% for us. 13 fouls as well for them. It was quite a pithy game, wasn't it?
I mean, I just want to add about the subs. I don't know what Mitch or Tom, I don't know what you think about it, but there was like on the TV coverage, and they made a huge deal about Arteta being naive and he shouldn't have made those substitutions. I didn't have a problem with it at the time, and I still don't have a problem with it now. I think he went to go and get something from the game, and I think we were losing, and I haven't got a problem with what he did, and that's what I want my manager to do. I want my manager to be proactive and go to get something from a football match. And I think there was so many the reaction, like on Twitter and in the media, they're so led by your Gary Nevilles and your Sky, that you commentary. You could tell that, like if we had gone and won that game, it was almost as if it wouldn't have been allowed, right? After the game, it just felt it was so biased, the whole approach by Sky. And I know this isn't a new thing. But the way that they were almost attacking and sort of disrespecting Arteta by saying he's naive and you've got people like Keane and Neville who haven't had the they haven't had the managerial experience that Mikel's had in the they're Arteta's managing an elite Premier League football team, and I just felt it really disrespectful the way that they were talking about Mikel. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I get to watch on something where I don't have to see Neville and or anyone that's annoying, which is great. I mean, like Tim Howard is like the worst person when it comes to like Arsenal, and he's tame when it comes to like Gary Neville when it comes to like the American broadcast.
If you watch that game back, sorry Mitch, but I just wanted to say, if you watch that game back without the commentary, we dominate even more of the game. We don't. It's not like United had all this pressure in the first 15. It was literally 8 or 9 minutes, and then we took control. And then that went all the way until the final sort of 15 minutes. And even after the substitutions, I don't know, we're chasing the game. And the reason that our performance dropped off was because we were sucker punched, and the players were disappointed. Not because of the substitute, because United took the goals well. Rashford took his goals well. It's anyone that's played the game or anyone that's followed the game. We've all been in a position where we haven't got what we deserved. And as supporters, you go away from the stadium, or you go away from you're sitting, at home, and you're like, how did we not get something from that? And you're gutted, so then you put yourself in the position of the players. They're going to be disappointed. They're not going to obviously be able to perform at the highest level because of the disappointment. They're humans, aren't they? And I just wanted to say that about Arteta, because he's been, you know, I think he's been largely disrespected by a lot of people and a lot of parts of the media for those substitutions. But for me, that I would have done the same.
Well, Jay, I did a piece on Facebook in reply, and I just said to this guy, look, if he had won the match with those 3 substitutions, he'd be a genius. The fact that
it's confirmation bias, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Like, I like those subs in the moment where we're down 2-1, bring on 3 attacking players to try to get the game back, and yeah, you're going to leave yourself a little exposed to where you might lose 3-1 or you might win 3-2.
Yep.
Like, that's a risk you take. But when you're down 2-1 in a 70th minute in an away match, you're like, yeah, I'll bring on 3 attacking players. Let's see if they can change something. Let's see what they can do. Like, I haven't actually seen any criticism about his substitutions, because I feel like that was a really good move. Like, the scoreline, when you just look at the 3-1 scoreline, it looks a lot less flattering towards us. But I would much rather lose 3-1 trying to chase the game than lose 2-1 and just like, all right, well, woe is us. We conceded twice. I guess we'll just lose. No, we win for it. We tried to win it. It didn't go our way, but we controlled the game. We were the better team. It didn't go our way. That's just how it works. And I don't really see why Arteta would be criticized for the subs, because he's going to win the game. He's trying to do that, or he's trying to get something out of it. And that didn't end up happening. Like, I know I have a feeling that if we did score a goal right after we made those subs and it had become 2-2, we probably would have gone a little bit more defensive, taken off one of our attackers, brought on Tomiyasu or something like that, to all of a sudden sit back a little bit more and not go all out attack as much. Like, those subs made a lot of sense in the game state. It's weird to criticize that.
Now, we've been approached by, I think it was Steve, and he asked us, do we think it was right that Paul Tierney and the guy called Moss, who was, I can't remember his first name, on VAR, he was the VAR ref, they both come from Manchester. I think Tierney is 5 miles from Old Trafford. Doesn't it leave the FA open to accusations of bias? Really,
I think it can leave you open to accusations, but I don't think those are really warranted. I don't think that, like, where you grow up really, or you grow up like 5 minutes from Old Trafford, so you're like, oh, I'm gonna rig Man United games for my entire referee career. I don't know. I think that's a very easy thing to grasp at straws. I think it's a thing that, like, yeah, you could use that, but
although,
like,
Mitch, I must say that Paul Tierney has really driven the knife into Arsenal at times. I think he was in charge of the Spurs game as well, and he wasn't very kind.
Yeah, no, he's just a bad referee. I'm just gonna go with that. I think he's just bad at his job. I think that more people need to go with that the refs are just bad at their job, as opposed to there's just some grand conspiracy. I think we've seen enough bad calls throughout the Premier League to where we can say, okay, so they just suck at this, as opposed to, oh, woe is us, we're the targets of this grand master plan to make sure that we don't beat Manchester United. Like, there's no conspiracy. There's no, like, refs coming at us because they're secretly big Manchester United fans. Like, I saw people like dissecting, like, when Antony scored, like the fourth official was like smiling with Ten Hag of it. Like, that really, like, who cares? Like, are we really gonna make a big deal about this? Like, come on, people. It's not a big conspiracy. Like, we aren't the victims all the time. Yeah, we've had some bad calls against us over the years, for sure. There's no denying that. But I don't think that there's any conspiracy against Arsenal or any conspiracy for Manchester United, at least not now. Maybe back in the day there was, in the older rivalry, the early 2000s, late 90s. I have no idea. But, like, right now, come on. Like, there's no correlation from Paul Tierney growing up in Manchester to him not giving us a goal. Like, that's just, no, I don't buy it.
Paul, we've already touched on VAR, how sucky it was at the weekend. West Ham's equaliser ruled out. That was a shocker, wasn't it? Did you all see that one? West Ham's equaliser. Goalkeeper drops a clanger, and then all of a sudden the trailing foot catches him, and he's sort of rolling around for a foul. Yet Ramsdale doesn't get anything. It's quite weird. Is it time that former players, went into VAR? Because they can read the game. Are we going to get less bias, less prejudice, a bit more of an insightful decision-making process from someone who's played the game and then goes into VAR?
I really don't know, Tom, because there's kind of pros and cons with that as well. As I mean, I'm not sure I would always trust the judgments of ex-pros in terms of football decisions. I mean, not with that kind of extensive form of reprogramming, retraining, where I think you're just trying to avoid a situation where an ex-pro can be accused of having influenced the game with the decision. As soon as what Mitch has said there about the refereeing situation as well. Yeah, I mean, one thing that was always, I've often wondered about with the VAR kind of system is, is why the pick from either current referees or ex-referees, because they're all part of the same club, so they're not going to go against each other particularly. And you kind of hear stories like on the referees' conferences when they do the training and things like this, that sometimes a younger referee might be pulled to one side by a senior referee to criticise him for making go to the VAR to check a decision. I'm sure. I mean, that goes on in most professions. I'm sure that might be a case with referees as well. I mean, as we mentioned before about this idea of listening to the conversations as to why they're making the decisions. I mean, at the very least, wouldn't it be good at the end of the game for the conversation from Stockley Park to be released? You'd have some idea what they've made the decision for. I don't mind if this was making a bad decision if they made it for the right reasons in their eyes. I can live with that. But when you try to fathom why they've made that decision, that's where where it becomes. You start asking questions about how adequate these people are to do the job. Yeah, I mean, the West Ham decision was just awful. And shouldn't the VAR looked at Mendy and give them a yellow card for simulation? Because if you were looking at that, there's no way that guy got touched. He can go around on the floor for 3-4 minutes and no action is taken. And once again, you look at the West Ham fans, massive celebrations. They scored in front of their own fans in the last minutes of the game. You know how fantastic that feeling is, and then it's just taken away from you. So it's just totally wrong. So West Ham were incredibly unlucky. It's just a poor decision, and I think as well. You mentioned, Jay, it was really bad. It's really bad weekend for VAR decisions all around, and you'd like to hope that something positive has come out from what's taken place this weekend. I'll reserve judgments on that one. And going back to ex-players, I think it's one of these ideas that sounds great as a theory. Whether I'd want Jimmy Bullard making decisions on VAR and things like that, I really would have a doubt about the caliber and quality of player than right to do that.
Robbie Savage.
Oh, Robbie Savage. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, can I just add one thing about that? The only thing I'd like to see instead of former players is use, say, for a season. I know this is never going to happen, but in an ideal world, you would take the best referees from Italy, for example, and get them to referee an entire season here and see how different it would be, and get the English referees to go over to Italy and get them to move around Europe. So you'd see if there's a marked improvement. And I'm sure, okay, the communication, but ultimately football's football, and what's a foul is a foul. And it would just be interesting to see how different the game would flow and how many decisions would be made. And that's what I'd like, instead of ex-pros, because ex-pros, like Paul said, they're not, first and foremost, they're not the most intelligent people, and also they're still open to criticism. They still have their.
He's bias. Joking if anyone's watching.
We were just talking about like biases that ex-players have when they're pundits.
Yeah,
think of how like Gary Neville is a biased, really biased for Manchester United when he's doing punditry and commentary. Could you imagine if he was refereeing a game, let alone like a Manchester United game? Like put him on a Liverpool match or an Arsenal match. Like that's, talk about bias. That's some bias. Like,
guys, I don't want to fill you with
5 minutes in their stadium. Just way different than playing for a club.
I don't want to fill you with dread, but Paul might be happy about this decision because Mike Dean's on VAR against Everton.
Yeah, I've read that, Tom. Yeah.
1-0 to Everton then.
No, Mike Dean don't sign up for Everton. I mean, he's a Tranmere fan.
Tranmere.
He's a Tranmere fan. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of rumours in the press. He's Liverpool season ticket, absolutely rubbish. I've seen him at Tranmere. He's definitely a Tranmere fan. one thing about Mike Dean as well. Why he's a VAR officer, so why is he getting paid more money to write in the mail and give his opinions about games? I mean, to me, that just seems totally wrong. You know, you can't be writing a column about the weekend's refereeing decisions, in my opinion, like that. If you're a VAR official, you can come out as a VAR official and make an official statement about why you made the decision. I don't think you can be writing a column that inevitably ends up defending the referee's decisions. And this is the guy, don't forget, who didn't send the Tottenham player off for pulling Cucurella's hair when he's on VAR that day as well. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Mike Dean, yeah, I mean, it's jobs for the boys, isn't it? You're being a bang average referee, so when you retire, you get promotions to be a VAR official like John Moss as well. You know, anyone of anything say, sorry guys, you're okay as referees, but we're looking for better caliber of persons to carry the throw, if you don't mind. You know, off you go and back your column for the Sun or the Daily Mail or someone.
I think you built him up too much. You know, he's not even that good. Right, we've got 2 bits left. Transfer window, it closed. A lot of stick because we did nothing on the last day. Mitch, what was your feeling about our transfer activity? Did we need anyone else? I've got some emails on this as well, but let's have your opinion.
I think that we get caught up in like the spectacle of deadline day too much. Like if we had signed Fabio Vieira on deadline day, I think people would have a much different image of the transfer window as opposed to like when we signed him. Because like I'm personally a little disappointed that we didn't sign a winger. Like that is like the biggest thing for me. But like, you know, we did sign Marquinhos so we can see like how he does. He's a bigger question mark. I would have liked a more established one. Like we were very in for Rafinha in the middle of the summer. He would have been fantastic. So I have a higher view of the window than most people. I would put it more of an 8 out of 10. I've seen some people put it as low as like a 5. And it's like, I don't know how you can say that when we've had like 2 serious level raisers come into the team in Jesus and Zinchenko, a young project who seems very exciting in Fabio Vieira. We've had Saliba come back. We had an Nketiah extension. We're cruising towards a Saka extension. Like from every angle, other than the fact that we didn't bring in a winger, and we all of a sudden lost 2 DMs a week before the window closed. So all of a sudden we tried to sign Douglas Luiz on deadline day, and it didn't work out. Those are the reasons why people were mad about how the window went. And I just don't really see. Like, I understand the criticism of like, oh, we want more depth in places. Yeah, 100%. I agree. But like, I also don't want us to like panic buy anyone. I think Douglas Luiz would have been a solid signing if we'd gotten him for like 23 million. I think he's just a nice little player. I like him. But Villa clearly didn't want to sell him. And we waited too long to like, because we all of a sudden had a panic, like, oh, both of our 6s got hurt. We've just got to buy someone. But we stuck to our price and we didn't budge on that. And I think that's good. And it's a little frustrating to see people like, wow, that was the worst window in our history. We're going to get relegated. And it's like, holy shit, calm down. Like that was like really, really good stuff. Like, are we really going to complain about this? Like,
anyone who's lived through a transfer window and you wind up with Kim Kallstrom and he had a bad back.
We've had a transfer window in like where we signed one player. It was Petr Cech, and that's it. If we had signed a striker, we could have won the league that season. And we signed Petr Cech the entire window. Like we've had way worse transfer windows. The level in which our team has gone up from the Everton win last season, the last game of the season, to what it is now is tremendous. And most of that is the business we've done in this transfer window. But also, I feel like what people are forgetting, we offloaded so much deadwood so effectively this summer. Like we terminated. Did we terminate a contract? I don't know if we terminated a contract. I think Hector just left for free. So I don't think we terminated like a single contract, as opposed to like last summer when we're terminating a bunch of contracts, having to like pay people to take these players away. Like, yeah, some of these players went out on loan, but we did some serious business with outgoings. We brought in some serious players for incomings. We've got an overall stronger squad. I think there's criticisms to be made, but not as bad as some people are making it out to be.
Jay, it's quite interesting during all this this shitstorm that if you actually have a look, we've got 3 players for every position now. there is the depth. You can see it there. I can't put the graphic up, but I've got a piece of paper in front of me that tells you we are fully covered. Obviously, there's going to be injuries, but what did you make of it? What would you give it as out of 10?
It's the same as Mitch. I thought it was a really good window. I think the disappointment on not signing anyone on the last game of the season was last day of the window was that Arteta came out publicly, didn't he, and said that we were still active and he was still looking to bring in one or two. So I think that if he'd have just said, say 3 or 4 weeks ago that we were done, not signing anybody, then I think the optimism obviously wouldn't be there. So I was slightly different about Douglas Luiz. I wasn't that arsed about signing him. He's not bad, but he's not somebody that, if the players were fit, we wouldn't be looking at him. So for me, don't go sign him. I think you have to, sooner or later, you have to have faith in your squad. You have to have faith in the players that you've invested in previously. And you have to go, players like Sambi, who, he showed he's had good performances and not so good, but you've got to give these players time. You've got to give these players actual playing time. So instead of going out and splashing X amount on, who was it? The sign for West Ham, was it Paqueta, centre midfielder? Yeah, we were linked with, who, he's a good player, tidy player, but I'm more than happy that we stuck with Sambi in that position. And look, Mitch covered it, covered everything in his when he just mentioned, covered all the outgoings, got rid of all of them, got rid of your Maitland-Niles and your Pepes. Huge chunk of the wage bill's gone, and incomings has been superb. So out of 10, I'd give it an 8. If you can't see that the squad's been improved, then I don't know what you're looking at. We're top of the league, and the players that have come in, they're all key members of the squad, aren't they? And you can see with Vieira, he's going to be, he's got ability, and I'm sure in the Europa League we're going to see more of him. So good window. We haven't got unlimited cash like City. We can't go and splash. I know it might have been, from a transfer point of view, might not be too much, but the wages that Haaland's on, maybe we can't go to those levels just yet. We don't want to cripple the club, do we? So, and we're not in the Champions League. So, the window that we've had, it does make me think, if we had got into the Champions League, how good would that have been? Because Arteta came out and said that there was a different group of players that we were looking at. This is the Europa League group of, apparently the Europa League group of players that we've signed. Where would we have gone? So, look, the team and the squad are buzzing. I don't care, regardless of the United result, and a major part of that is the players that have been brought in. So great window, and you have to be enthusiastic about the season and the players that come in.
Right, well, there's a couple of social media statements. One from Simon Deasy, who's a friend of the podcast, but we don't always agree. We have opposing views. He put, well, there you go. Just when you think that Arsenal may have learned from their previous mistake, like the end of last season, nah, it doesn't end up that way at all. Unbelievable. And Gunner Girl says, so you Arsenal fans are saying that Edu and Arteta have done nothing. Can Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko go back? Just learn to appreciate. This is not a dream league. This is the Premier League transfer. Things are not really as easy as you think. And I think that sums it up nicely, Paul, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I agree with what Mitch and Jay said. I think sometimes the hype about the final, the last day of the transfer market is it's unnecessary. I'd much rather the manager came out and said, right, we've done our business now. We're not going to panic. I think quite often when you make a move on transfer deadline day, you're paying an overinflated fee for the player. In the end, doesn't really deliver. I think the preparation for your squad rebuilding is done during the summer months. You shouldn't be really, unless you're being hit by unexpected injuries, in which case you have to react. I think most managers have got the vision for the team. They don't need to be panic buying on the last day of the season, on the last day of the transfer window. They really don't.
If any business was going to be done, it would have been done sort of 2 weeks prior, wouldn't it? But interestingly enough, why didn't we get Luiz? Villa wanted 40 million for him. But the thing is, with him and Tielemans, they're up for grabs in the summer. They will be free. And you can kind of see, in a way, Edu and Arteta kind of thinking, well, that's where we're going to be. We're going to wind up with those two. I'm sure the agents have already been approached, all their representatives and whatever. And Edu's been quite busy on the phone. You'll be glad to know, chaps, that John's back. Yeah.
Nah, I'm kind of tired of him. I don't really care what he has to say anymore. I'm going to be completely honest.
Well, we'll worry for you, Mitch.
Do not care at all.
John says of the United game, lack of penetration, poor management, dreadful tactics. Pièce de résistance was the poor substitutions which killed the game. Defend that lot, you lot.
We already did. We covered all this. We don't need to cover John.
He's just like a publicity seeker, isn't he? Really. Sorry, John, but that's how it goes. We will be releasing a mini pod, audio pod covering the FC Zurich match in the Europa League. If you want to get in touch, it's an Arsenal thing 4@gmail.com. And don't forget, the audio version of the Gun Room is cropped. We have edited it, and the YouTube version is longer, obviously, because you're watching us. Thanks, guys. Superb pod, superb input again. What are we looking forward to at the weekend? Paul, cover your ears, put a blindfold on or something. Hide behind the sofa, because we're going to give you it now. Mitch, what's the score?
I'm ready.
I just want to bounce back win. I'd love a 3-0. That'd be great, or better.
Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go too hard because obviously, Paul.
It's okay, Jay. I'm a grown man. I can take these things. Don't worry.
And I've grew to love him, so I'm not going to go to. I'm not going to go too. I want to see a reaction, and I think we're going to get it. Like I said earlier, it's just unfortunate that Everton are playing us next, because I think the players are going to be chomping at the bit to get the win. And also, you know, we've got the European game, but there's going to be big rotation, large scale rotation. So. Yeah, I'd take a 3-0 as well. A win, though, you just get back to winning ways. And yeah, I hope it's a good performance.
I think I'll go for a 2-0. Paul, obviously you're going to hope for the best. What's your prediction?
Well, I'm confident it's not going to be as bad as the final game of last season when we obviously transferred one. We had nothing to play for. I think you'll find that Everton are a much improved side defensively this season compared to where we were last season. I think we've got the second best defence outside the top six. We've only conceded 6 goals so far this season. And I think you mentioned a few weeks ago, Jay, about Conor Cody, that you thought he'd been a good acquisition for Arsenal, possibly. I think Conor Cody and Jay Tarkowski have absolutely transformed that defence. So, and I had the feeling in the derby game at the weekend with about 10 minutes to go, I was there, my son saying, I can't see Liverpool scoring here. We're so solid defensively here. So that's a massive improvement. I can't see it being a high-scoring game particularly. I think it might be the odd goal in 3. Obviously, if we get a draw from this, I'd be delighted. That'd be a real measure of how the side's improved. And I think as well, there's going to be some quite interesting little side stories in the show, because you got Neil Mopay, who now plays for us, who's got a bit of a thing with Arsenal, with the Guendouzi thing.
There's a thing with Leno more than anything.
Yeah. But was it Guendouzi at the end of the game? The two of them, Guendouzi actually showed the way.
Last time we saw Guendouzi.
Yeah. Who also doesn't play for us.
Yeah. He was playing nice against Tottenham for Marseille. But yeah, so
they lost.
Did they?
Yeah, Marseille got a red card.
Mitch has had one eye on the TV. Mitch, just bring us up to speed with what you got there.
Marseille went down to 10 men because one of their center backs made a really dumb tackle. Spurs won 2-0. Richarlison scored both of them. The Atletico Madrid and Porto game seemed like a crazy ending. I think there was 3 goals in the last 7 minutes, all after 90 minutes. So I'm gonna have to go check out the highlights of that game after. But it looks like an interesting Champions League today.
Chaps.
Did Liverpool get beat?
Yeah, they got trounced 4-1.
4-1.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic. Sorry, Tom. I'm going for 1-1.
We'll let you have that, Paul. We've grown to love you, and we've embraced you. Chaps, thanks very much. You look after yourselves, and I'll see you on the next pod, where hopefully we won't be talking about refs or VAR. It will be because we've had a glut of goals. Because I'm sick.
I don't want to talk about refs. I don't want to talk about refs.
We'll make a pact. We're not going to do it. All right. Take care, chaps.
Bye.